We are witnessing greatness as Islander fans, as Matthew Schaefer is having one of the best rookie seasons for a defenseman that we have ever seen. And I'm not even just talking about a defenseman at 18 years old. In general, he is having an absolute phenomenal rookie season. He's already one of the best defensemen in the entire world, so much so that he is getting talk about Team Canada. And on this episode, we're going to talk about whether or not it makes sense for Schaefer to be on the Olympic team for Canada. In addition, we're also going to talk about another young Islanders player who's making a case to play for the Olympics and talk more about how Schaefer's role is likely going to increase with the Islanders as a result of the Alexander Romanov injury. But first, I really just want to focus on this idea that he can be playing for Team Canada. We've been talking about this a lot as fans, but now he has officially been entered into the Olympic drug testing. This came out the other day, but I felt like today was the perfect day to discuss, especially with no Islanders hockey going on. I thought it'd be a good idea to really take a look at what Team Canada's defense kind of looks like. This is a team that is incredibly deep, and of course, there are a bunch of different projections. Nobody knows exactly who's going to be on this team. We know we have an idea. Sidney Crosby, Nathan MacKinnon, players like that, Connor McDavid, have already been named to the roster, but there are a lot of questions when it comes to Team Canada's defense, especially after it comes to after Cale Makar, who we know will be on the team. After that, there are a lot of question marks. And for me, looking at the list of left defensemen, obviously, Devin Hayes is a perfect fit to play with Cale Makar, but if you had to ask me honestly, who is the better defenseman? I know Devin Hayes has way more of a sample size, and that is the big thing that's going to be holding Schaefer back when it comes to this. But look, I love defensemen like Josh Morrissey. I like Travis Sanheim on the Philadelphia Flyers, but you're going to tell me that Team Canada is better off with a Sanheim as opposed to Matthew Schaefer. Thomas Harley makes a lot of sense. He has not been healthy this season, so I'm not going to knock him like other people are, saying like, oh, look at his stats. He was a phenomenal defenseman last season, but Schaefer, it would make a lot of sense for Team Canada to take this player. And on my opinion on if I want to see this happen, of course, I don't want to root against Schaefer in the Olympics in general. It'd be hard to root against Schaefer in everything. Of course, I'll be rooting for Team USA. It's a shame that he can't play for Team USA. But focusing on the question at hand, I think this is good for the Islanders. It might not sound like it. I know a lot of Islander fans, especially after what happened to John Tavares in Sochi, they're very hesitant about having an Islander player play in the Olympics. But for me, the big picture here is at Schaefer's age, if he did make Team Canada, he'd be able to learn so much from all these players, truly playing at the best level he possibly can. And I think it would be a really good learning experience. For a player like Bo Horvat, while I would want it for him, of course, all these players, they dream of playing in the Olympics. For Bo Horvat, I'd be a little more concerned. Again, he is an older player. This is going to be in February, right before the Islanders likely have to likely make a playoff push. That's what it's looking like right now, if they're not firmly in a position already. So perhaps you'd want more of a rest for a player like that. But I think it would be a great opportunity if Schaefer does get it. Unfortunately, I don't think he is going to. I just think Team Canada is a little stubborn in the way they pick their rosters, but we'll see what happens when it comes to Matthew Schaefer. Also, coming out recently, the NHL did a poll on who is likely to win the Calder Trophy if voting was to start right now, and I saw some people on Twitter getting upset at this ranking. Before you panic, the way this works is they ask 16 writers who they would give the way the voting works is you pick 5 players in order, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's a point system like that. So Schaefer having 80 points and Demidov having 57, that means every single writer unanimously voted for Schaefer. So don't make comments like, oh, why is this so close? It's not. The way this vote happened, it was unanimous that as of right now, people think that Schaefer is going to win the Calder Trophy, and this makes a lot of sense. Now, I do think some of the goaltenders do need a little bit more representation. In particular, I think Spencer Knight's not a rookie. Askarov on the San Jose Sharks has been absolutely incredible. Also, Wallstedt, that was the other goaltender I was thinking about on the Minnesota Wild. They definitely deserve some more consideration. Maybe even put them over Demidov with how good they've been. Definitely Seneca, perhaps not Demidov. But this is definitely what I think the top 3 of the Calder is going to look like this season, with Schaefer number 1, Demidov number 2, and then one of those goaltenders at number 3. But it's just really exciting to see how good Schaefer has been so far this season. And I think a lot of people who don't watch the Islanders every single night aren't realizing is Schaefer is providing so much more than the points. The points per game has gone down a bit because these past few games he has not put a point on the board. This has been his biggest dry stretch in terms of the NHL so far, but just watching him play, I feel like the last few games for the Islanders have been Schaefer's best games so far. So while he hasn't been putting up points, I think they're coming. The way he's playing, and you guys know this as well as I do, the way he's just controlling the puck on the line, getting creative with moves. It's funny, this offseason, we were talking a lot about how it might make sense for Schaefer to go back to the OHL because he really didn't have that much time in the OHL to learn how to dominate as a defenseman offensively. It's funny now we look at it. That's what he's doing right now in the NHL. He's still learning what he can get away with, what moves he can make, how far in he can go. I think his offense is this is the beginning of what's going to be so much more for Matthew Schaefer, so I'm not concerned about the points at all. And in fact, you look the last game, this is the game against the Seattle Kraken, he played 27 minutes and 23 seconds in a game that went to overtime with no score. So as much as people like to talk about points when it comes to defensemen, what people aren't talking about enough is how good shutdown-wise Schaefer has been. Now, it hasn't all been perfect. I think he does need to clean up some things in the defensive zone, but because he is such a generationally good skater, he's able to make mistakes and get away with them, and then also learns from them so he doesn't make that mistake again. And that's a big thing I've really appreciated watching Matthew Schaefer, the way he learns from every shift. You see this on the offensive zone too, where if something does not work, after the next few shifts, he tries something different. He learns from it. I am so impressed with Matthew Schaefer, and we are watching something special with the New York Islanders this season. I can't wait to see if he finds another gear later on in this season. Again, I think he's trying out so much stuff in the offensive zone. You can tell that he's getting more and more comfortable in the NHL with each game he plays. As incredible as his offensive production has been so far, I really think there's another level. I'm not even talking about the future. I think there's another level this season. I think he's getting close to really putting together a hot streak. And when that happens, watch out. The Islanders, who have already been very good this season, are going to be a real threat if Schaefer finds another level to his offensive production. Speaking of the Olympics, real quickly, I do want to also touch on Emil Heineman is another player who is in contention to potentially be on Team Sweden. This is something I would definitely want to see. Emil Heineman is a winger who's kind of risen his stock recently, and I think there's another level here. And again, the Olympics is an opportunity, especially for young players who often, unfortunately, don't get the opportunity to play in the Olympics because, of course, the veterans have such a bigger pedigree when it comes to picking these teams. But I think he's a player who can learn so much from playing with the best players in the world. And I really hope this is an opportunity that he gets, because Emil Heineman definitely deserves it. I mean, you look at the Islanders scoring so far. What's so encouraging about this Islanders team and the way they're winning, yes, they are getting a lot of contribution from veterans. Bo Horvat, 25 points. Mathew Barzal, 17. Kyle Palmieri, 17. He is having a very solid year. But after that, Emil Heineman is tied with Schaefer for 4th place on the Islanders with 15 points. You'll love to see that young players for the Islanders are contributing at a high level. And what's even more exciting is now you have Cal Ritchie beginning to figure out together. There's a lot of optimism for this Islanders team. The one thing I'm not so optimistic about, and that's what I'm going to end this video on, because it ties into Matthew Schaefer, is this injury to Alex Romanov. Now we know Alex Romanov is not returning to this season. I think a big part of what the Islanders' plan is going to be to get around this and stay competitive despite losing. While he was not perhaps the prettiest defenseman the Islanders had this season, one of the defensemen who's eating some of the toughest minutes this season, I think it's clear Matthew Schaefer is going to get a big portion of those minutes. Early on, I wouldn't say the Islanders were sheltering him, but they definitely were trying to take advantage of putting him against lesser opposition to focus on the offense. Now he's going to really have to do it all. And yes, Adam Pelech is going to take the brunt of the tough minutes for the Islanders. But after him, again, Pelech played 26 minutes in that game against the Kraken. Schaefer's going to have to really step up and play against higher competition, because at this point, it's clear the Islanders don't trust anyone else on the left side. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I still think long-term the solution is going to be giving Isaiah George a long-term look this season. He is supposed to be a strong defenseman, but I'd love to know in the comments what you think about Schaefer potentially making the Olympic team, Heineman potentially making the Olympic team for Sweden, and what the Islanders should do on the left side of that defense. As I've responded to a lot of your comments, I think it's too early to make a trade. The Islanders have been really exciting this season, but you got to keep in mind you can't be throwing away the future just to patch holes this season. And even if it might not sound like that, that includes trading 3rd, 4th round picks for a stopgap defenseman on the left side, especially with how stacked the Islanders are in that position long term. Now, of course, there are still other ways to improve the left side of your defense, other than calling up players like Marshall Warren, who was just sent down, likely for cap reasons. We'll talk about that in a future episode of Islanders Digest. But in addition to that, you can also do things such as calling players up from waivers if you think there's a piece that you think can improve the team. But I don't think this is a trade situation. But I'd love to know what you think. Do you think I'm being too passive? Do you think the Islanders should be more aggressive, fixing both the hole on their left side of the defense and also finding an upgrade for Tony DeAngelo on the right side? I'd love to know your thoughts. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.